Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to my studio. Today is March 28th, 2020. We are kind of right in the middle of the coronavirus thing going on. My husband and I are staying home. We are in contact with family through Facebook and, other things, and phone. The old-fashioned phone, you can pick that up and call. So it's a little scary and worrisome, and you worry about everybody you know and your friends and family and coworkers, and we all just have to take a deep breath and do what we're supposed to do. Stay at home. If you're older, my husband and I are both over 60. We are doing very little going out, and I have now decided I'm going to have groceries delivered. I really don't even want to go out anymore. We've got plenty to do here. My husband is sheetrocking our garage, and because when he built me this studio, we took some of the garage, and so he had to do the garage too. So that's the way it is, and it's keeping him busy. And I have tons of stuff to do here. I can weave for probably a year and not have to go out. I hope that isn't the case. That would be horrible, but it's the way it is right now. So we need something to distract us. So let's maybe sew a little bit, or learn to sew a little bit. I've got notes over here, so if you see me looking, and I'm holding this because I've got it just right for when I show some stitches, because I still haven't figured out how to edit this stupid thing. I probably need some program. I probably need a bigger computer than my laptop. I'm not going to put a whole lot of money into this until I think it's worth putting some money into. So this way I just get to share what I've got and do the best I can, like we're all doing. Let's see. What else? Oh, yes. For those of you who want to, whether it's during time of coronavirus or not, how about making a little stitch book? I have never done this before, so I'm going to do this with my samples that I'm making to show you. So here we have, this is Miss or Mrs., I don't know, I just have her name, Miss Alice Hunt's notebook. I think I shared a lot of this with you last time. But she's got stitches and all sorts of lovely things. And we are going to start off, I need a fourth hand here. Okay, we are going to start off with some beautiful basic stitches over here on the left. We're going to do a basting stitch, a plain basting, an even basting stitch, I guess is what they call it. Even basting stitch, uneven basting stitch, and a running stitch, which are good kind of basic things to have. I would do samples of each, like this, kind of squares. This one's a little big, I think. I'm thinking that the smaller ones might be a little bit better, but that is kind of what I'm doing. Let's talk about materials again for those of you who are thinking about doing this. So I'm going to put this down, and we will get on with, make sure I've got everything lined up here. There we go. There we go. And nothing works right as you want it to. Okay. There we go. May as well laugh, Okay, pins. Just basic pins, maybe not ones that are, but nice new fresh pins that are straight. You might need a needle threader and a thimble. My great-grandmother's. I'll be using that one. You'll need needles, and maybe, there we go, needles, a little eye. I like these smaller ones, but I've been sewing for quite a while. If you have bigger ones, don't worry about it. You're starting, use what's comfortable in your hand, and go forward from there. And then some nice cotton thread to use on this linen that I'm going to do my demo on. So let's get on to the fabric. That's what I was going to do next, fabric. So this is linen. It's a heavier linen than kind of, I guess you'd call it shirt linen. It would be good for, you know, a shirt. I've also got a couple of dresses in this. I'm trying to think. Now the linen dress I've got on right now is a little bit heavier actually. So it's just a nice fabric. It's a plain weave, which means it's an over under over under. It has a straight grain that goes this way, so you can't really pull on it. I'm tugging pretty good and it's not moving. And then left to right, it won't move much. But if you grab the corners and move, it will stretch, and that is a bias. If you ever hear of anything being done on a bias cut, that means they've cut it out so this goes from like your shoulder to the hem, and it will move a little bit. Then I've got, this is also linen. This is a lighter, almost handkerchief linen. I've got a project going that I've cut out in this, and I'll show that to you in a little bit. This is also straight grained. It's not going to move except on the bias, and it's just a really nice weight. This piece feels a lot lighter weight than this one. And I think what's happened is the fiber is just a little bit heavier in this, and it's a little bit lighter, but the weave is very similar looking. This is a blend of linen and cotton, and it again is a plain weave. It'll only move on the bias. Doesn't really matter what you use, but I really do suggest plain weave. Don't use like any knitted stuff for your samples, at least not yet. So it'll just make your life easier. So stitches we're going to do today. We are going to do 2 basting stitches, and these are shredding so much. There we go. They're just a mess. Okay, we've got a nice even basting stitch, which is the same on both sides, the stitch length. And then we've got an uneven basting stitch, which it's got, kind of looks like the other one on one side, but is a lot shorter on the other side. Now, basting stitches are used to hold your piece together so they won't slip before you need to put your permanent stitches in. I don't know why you would use one over the other, but I probably should have researched that, but I had never heard of uneven basting before this little booklet here. So that's that. I've never heard of this one before. And the next one is a running stitch, and this is a sample I did, I can't even remember, it might have been my class I taught at the new school here in town. Just a plain stitch, and I labeled it, and like I said, this is kind of a little too big for a sample piece, so go a little smaller, save your cloth. And then this is one I will repeat today that I did, and I was seeing how small I could make the stitches, and that's pretty small for me. I kind of like that. So first, let's do our basting stitch, and I'm gonna just fold this piece of fabric over and just finger press it, and grab, I do not have my scissors, so we'll use these instead. So I'm going to take that, put my glasses on, and see if I can get this threaded, and I did. Okay, so a lot of people say, well, not a lot of people. If you are somebody who wants to do historically accurate sewing, certain parts or certain ages want certain things done certain ways. Some people say don't put a knot in your thread and just, do a double back stitch and it'll be fine. I kind of like knots. That's just me. So I just learned how to do this knot just a couple of years ago. Let me get organized here so I can show you a little bit more, like you're looking over my shoulder here. So you got your needle threaded. You're going to kind of grab that with the needle, wrap it around 2 or 3 times, put your fingers right over that thread you wrap, and just hold, just to hold. Don't press down so hard, because you're going to bring your needle right through that. And I hope this works. And my husband just went in the garage. There, and so you've got a nice little knot. And this is so slick, and it looks so much better than all the knots I've ever made up until a couple of years ago. So, back to the sewing. Basting stitch. Just start at one end, figure out how far in you want to make it. If you're doing a pattern, it'll tell you. If just your samples, just try to be, nope, not big enough, there we go. You're just trying to be consistent with your stitch sizes. And then do a few and pull it out. And see, I wasn't very consistent, but you're trying to be consistent with your stitch sizes. So, in, and now I'm putting a little tension on my cloth. So I'm holding this with my finger, holding it there with my fingers, and then I've got these 2 fingers to use. Do whatever helps you. And so over, under, and do, like I said, 2, a couple of stitches, and then pull. This is a really easy stitch. Anybody can do this. The thing that takes practice is getting it in a straight line and getting your stitches. And if you want to be perfect, keep practicing. Basting is going to come out when you're making a piece of clothing. The basting stitches usually are pulled out, and if they're not pulled out, they're not seen. So you just pull that through, and I would double back right there to kind of stop it. What I'm doing here. And then just clip that. And these are not the right scissors to have. So get yourself a nice little pair of scissors that you can use just for your sewing. Don't let anybody cut paper with them. So anyway, not very straight, but gets the job done for a basting stitch. And let's see if this will cut thread for me here. Or cut. Not very well. See, this has been cut. Has been cutting paper. There we go. So you can open this up and see that, you wouldn't really want to wear something like that. This is just to keep some pieces together. This is great for when you are fitting a garment. You can, you could move this in. If it's just on a waist, you could take it in and fit the garment to your body, or have a friend help you. So there's one, the even basting. 2, the uneven basting, which is basically basically the same, just different. So hold on, let me get another piece of cloth here, and I'm using this, this one is the part linen, part cotton one. I'll do a little finger pressing there. I've still, I got enough on my needle, so I think I can do this. Make my stitch, run it through, got my knot. So this one, you're going to go in like a normal, I'm going to do a couple of stitches, kind of, let me think here, come up, oh, that didn't work, did it? There we go. So what you're doing with an uneven, and if see how that's twisted up, just twist your needle in the opposite direction and it'll come loose. So I'm going to go in on a bigger stitch, but not take as big a stitch coming up, and then go about the same length, come up. So, there you go. Oh, and I've lost my thread. So it's a longer stitch on top, smaller stitch on the bottom. Rethread my needle. So it is a beautiful day out here in Maine. We got some snow and it's going finally, and I can't wait to get out in the garden. Okay, we're back in business here. Okay, right now that's bugging me, so I'm not going to wear it. So bigger stitch, smaller stitch, bigger stitch, smaller stitch, bigger stitch, and just work your way across the fabric. A few stitches, pull. I have to keep checking, make sure you can see this. Bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller. Then we go back and I will do a, now that'll happen. See what I did? I pulled a little too hard and it scrunched it all up. All you got to do, hold this in, but don't hold the thread, and give it a pull, and that will straighten that right out. So now I'll do my little back stitch now that I've got that all worked out, and we're good. So bigger on one side, smaller on the other side. And I'll cut this open and show this to you. I'll have better scissors next time. And so when you pull on this, it's the same. It's a basting stitch. It's not meant to be permanent. It's just meant to hold something till you can get it sewn permanently. So there we go, basting stitches. Now we can do the running stitch, which you can use a lot. It's a good basic stitch. You can mend a hole with this. You can sew something together. You can do a hem. It all kind of depends on what you want your finish to be, as far as hemming and such. But you know, it's what you think of when most people think, oh, I'm going to hand sew something. This is probably what they think of. It can be a nice tight little stitch, and that's what this one looks like. This is my sample I did. And so what I'm going to do is get some more thread. And can I get it? Yep, I got it. I suppose I need some music, don't I, for these lulls. And I guess I need to learn how to talk while I'm doing something. So here we are, running stitch. These are shorter stitches than the basting stitch. Like I said, you can sew a seam with this and it would hold, just not as pretty. Now, you want to try to make them even. So you're trying to make, when you go under, the same length as when you come up to the top here. So just kind of take your time, don't rush it. This all takes practice. If you're not happy with it, practice some more. That's what I think these little books are good for, because you've got samples of work of when you started doing something, and then you can go back and look at your work and maybe put another sample in later and go, hey, I've really improved. Now I'm doing these a little bit bigger than this one here, but just to give you an idea of, just try to make them even. If you've got thread that if you've got cloth that you can really see your threads on, count your threads to make them even. That's a good way to start. That way you'll get a feel of what even is, and you'll be able to just kind of work like that. You'll get a little muscle memory, and so you'll know exactly what it is, and you won't have to count them anymore. So that's it. That is the basic running stitch. And next time I'm gonna talk about the back stitch and the running back stitch. We're getting exciting stuff here. So there we go. And actually I do think it's exciting stuff. I love this stuff. So let me cut this in half to show you what this one I just did would look like. So if I didn't have black thread, that would be an okay seam. For a quick patch, that would do the job. For a seam that didn't have any stress on it, that would hold. So there, that is the seam stuff and stitch stuff. I do have some other things to talk about and show you. I thought I would show you some projects that I plan to work on. Sorry, I hope I didn't make you seasick. I plan to do what's called the Folkwear Armistice blouse. And this is the blouse I'm talking about. It's one of the older folkwear patterns, and I got one back in late 70s, early 80s, and I had planned to make for myself. Never got around to it. I made one in November. I did it all by hand. We were going out to see my daughter in Ohio, and I cut everything out here and took it with me, and I sewed it in the car, all by hand. And I sewed across America, and didn't finish it on the drive, but finished it when I was at my daughter's while we were visiting, and I was really happy with it. I'm still happy with it. Wanted to show it to you. Cannot find it. It's somewhere in this mess called my studio. Actually, it's really not a mess. It's kind of tidy, but I have no idea where I planted it. So anyway, but I'm making myself another one, and I'm making itself to fit me. They've reissued the pattern and done it in larger sizes now, and I am a Rubenesque person here, so they've got it my size. Let me show you. Let me see if I can do this without making you seasick, or me seasick having to watch it later. Okay, there we go. Good. So over here I have the beginnings of my blouse. So what I'm doing, these pins are to show me what is the right side and the wrong side, because you can't tell. And I've done the seams so far. They're a little gathered. I hand stitched with a back stitch that we'll be doing next week, and then I did something called a felled seam, which is when you've got in a seam you've got two pieces of cloth where you cut one side down a little bit and then fold the other side over and stitch it, because as you can see, this really can flake or fray and it would make a mess inside the garment. So I'm closing up all my seams. I'm finishing all my seams so they don't fray. So that I'll be working on and showing you some stuff on that. I really want to do something called pulled work on the cuffs, and let's see if you can see, put it up against this navy stuff here. You can see the holes in this, and this is called pulled work, and you actually clip threads. There we go. You clip threads and then do some needlework around the edges. So I've done it years and years ago. Haven't done it for a long while. Not sure if I can see to do it anymore. So I'll be practicing some of this and show that to you, and you'll be right there when I make the decision if I'm going to go forward with that. Another project I want to do is from two Simplicity patterns by American Duchess, and they do these beautiful 18th century clothing, and I'm going to do all of this eventually, but I'm going to do, for my first project, what's called a shift, which is basically what would be worn right next to the skin, and then you'd put your other clothes on top of it. I want to do that, and then I'm going to do the corset stays, and then this thing, which is called a, oh, I'm going to murder this. I'm so sorry for people who know what this is. Pannier, that's my guess. And then, oh, and I'm going to do this all by hand because I'm a crazy person. And then I'm going to do their dress, because I've always wanted one of these. I have no use for one of these. I don't do cosplay. I don't have an organization in the area that dresses up in period clothing, at least not that I've found. I just think it's beautiful and I want one. So, hey, and what else am I going to do for who knows how long? Let's see, what else? Yeah, next time we'll be doing back stitch and some combinations of a running and back stitch. Let's see, what else? If you have any questions, please, put them down below and I will try to answer them, or I'll try to answer them in the next video. I also want to say to my beautiful grandchildren, Alice and Tristan, hello. Dee Dee loves you, and I hope you're well and having fun with Mommy and Daddy. So I guess that's it. So get your thread out, get your little pieces of material out, stitch, practice. Practice doesn't always make perfect, but it makes you better. And I guess that's it. Just do what you can during the virus and be good to each other and patient with each other, because if you're living in a small apartment in the city and you got you and your husband, or you and your wife, and you got kids, you got to be going crazy, and I don't know how you're doing it. I just hang in there, be patient with each other, and we'll all get through this. So take care, and hope you come back next time. Oh yes, do the YouTube thing, like and share. No, like and subscribe. That would be good. Hope you're having a great day given the circumstances. Get out, try to get out and get some fresh air. Maybe walk around the building, walk around your apartment, walk up and down the hallways if you're in an apartment. I'm lucky, I've got a beautiful backyard that I can go out and kind of hang out in, and hope you guys kind of make it through. So take care. Bye-bye.